Hi guys, welcome to this episode of the Off-Grid Traveller. Today we're going to be joined by energetic Mick Becker, who with his partner and kids travelled around on a catamaran on the open sea. And why keeping a fish or some tobacco is a great bartering tool and could have you up in 5-star amenities for free. And how a toilet breaking on the open waters can mean you're found overboard with your pants around your ankles. And as always, we'd like to thank the sponsor of today's podcast, Dry Flush Toilets. If you haven't seen these amazing off-grid toilets, you really need to check them out. They're the cleanest, easiest, smell-free toilet that you've ever seen, and they recently won the best new camping technology in Australia. No more dumping chemicals or maintaining a composting toilet. Go to www.dryflush.com.au and see how they work. Let's get travelling.
Welcome to the Off-Grid Traveller podcast, where we meet the people who go off-grid and into a life of adventure, challenge and grand new horizons. Whether on land or on sea, you'll meet some fascinating characters who've chosen the road less travelled and discover their best tips, worst moments, favourite destinations and a whole lot more.
Hey guys, welcome to the Off-Grid Traveller, and I have the wonderful Mick Becker with us. And just to confirm, it's Mick and your partner's Lozi, right?
Lozi, yeah, Laura,
Lozi.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting way to go for the nickname. And the main thing I wanted to really kind of put forward initially is that you have been traveling around on a catamaran, not only with you and Lozi, but 2 little tykes with you and adventuring the open sea. So it would be really cool, mate, if you could like just give a little bit of background of who you are and just kind of kick it off from there.
Well, yeah, I guess we didn't plan to have kids. It was just going to be myself and Lozi going on little adventures all over the place, and intermittent working, trying to do six months working and saving, 6 months adventure, 6 months working and saving, 6-month adventure, and travel around the world that way if we were able to do it. And then, boom, here we are with kids.
And you, because we had a little prelim chat, you were saying how I think it was the first one, you were on the boat when you found out that Lozi was pregnant, and it's just, what of all places to find out that you're going to have a kid. And I don't know if you've told them, like, have you told the kids like, oh, by the way, you were grown on the open sea? Yeah,
well, her middle name's Oceania.
Nice.
Because that's where, so Xena Oceania, she, that's where she's from. That's where she spent the first little period of her life. Which, it was cute. It was like, we did plan to have, I shouldn't say it was a completely unplanned thing, but boats and the kids, it happened quite fast.
Yeah.
And now that we're on land, living this land life a little bit again, we're hanging to get back out there.
Yeah. Because, one thing as well, you have a cafe right at the moment called the Bucking Seahorse, and I was checking that out, and it looks awesome. Like, look at the design. And you were saying to me, just to give a kind of a background on it, you've got a large area around where you are. There's loads of cafes, right? But you've gone a bit niche with what you do, because
Well, after we lived on the boat for a while in an island just in the middle part of the archipelago of Vanuatu.
Yeah.
And there's not much there, which is good. It's very nice. But after a while, you do just feel like being able to go to a shop
and being able to
talk to other people or something. Because where we were anchored somewhere for a few weeks, and there's literally nothing there. So if you would need to go to get some rice, or you want to try and get some fruit or anything like that, or
climbing the trees, right? You have to go climb the trees to get the fruit. You have to hoe the ground to go get the rice and all that. Yeah.
Well, it's magic. There's this certain place where fresh water would come out from the higher side of the beach, so we could collect fresh water from the beach.
Wow.
It was unreal. We're getting fresh water from the beach, and we were drinking from that. But then, to get into town was, you walk for, it's like a 10-minute walk, and you got a hitch, and that can take up to a few hours at a time. Then you're on the back of someone's van, and you try and explain where you want to go, and then it takes however long to get into town, and then a lot of the time they've got plans, and then you're a bit of a token souvenir in the back, so you end up driving around. Look what I've got here. Look at this idiot. And then, so, you know, a simple trip to just go and get some rice and some supplies could pretty much take the day. Like a lot of times I'd leave in the morning. I wouldn't get back to the boat, you know, at night. So getting back to the Sunshine Coast, it was nice to be able to like actually have a place where we craved that a society again, like somewhere where we could just walk to the shops and have a cold shower and buy a cold drink and go to a place where you hear live music. And that's what, when we came here, it's like, we really want live music. And there was nowhere that had that really good, intimate atmosphere where you can sit down and listen to a performance.
Yeah, right.
And that's the best. So that's what we've made here.
And to push onto that as well is that you've created like new upcoming artists is something that's really a big area within what you've been doing and pushing that music scene, which I think is, you know, it's something that's close to my heart, mate. So keep doing that and find those next new talents, right? That's what you got to do.
Oh, mate, there's so many people out there that just have it inside them to write lyrics that you've never thought of before and put it together in a song and sing it in a way that just it's exploring in a different way. You know what I mean? Like you can.
There you go, mate. The off-grid singer, right?
So there you go. Speaking to the off-grid singer.
Love it, mate. Love it. So going back to you, like, first of all, the fact that you had to go find rice down at the town and it takes a full day. So you're probably coming back with 1 kilogram to 10 kilograms worth of rice to make sure. Where was that actually happened? And it was on you were traveling via your catamaran, right?
Correct. So we lived aboard a 38-foot cat, which is, it's bigger than a tinny.
Yeah.
But when you're out in the ocean, it doesn't really feel that big, but it's probably the smallest ocean-going cat that you'd want to really be on, especially with a family. It's got enough space for us. We've got our own room. The kids have a room.
Right.
There's a galley area there. I think you might have seen pictures of it on the Instagram. So it's not a huge space, but it's enough. And whenever you would go into these villages, it happened quite frequently. Right. It's just a day journey, and you go in there on your little dinghy, because your main boat's obviously, if you look at the main boat that you live on, that's your house. Yeah. And then your dinghy's like your car.
Your motorbike.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So when you go into town, you've got the main boat, you make sure there's no bad weather coming, family's safe, everything's good. Lozi would either drop me to the beach with the kids. Drop me to the beach and then she'd take the kids back. Right. Or if they had stuff to do on the boat, I'd take the boat and then I'd be gone for the day. I'd come back and then sometimes do 2 or 3 loads back out to the boat with a shop, you know, so you don't know whether you're going to be gone for 3 hours or whether you're going to be gone for 12 hours.
So that's just making me think like you would actually moor the boat like in the sea, not at an actual marina or anything, because you're in the middle of nowhere, and then you pull the dinghy out, you go do, as you said, a few trips. Gosh, that's have you ever, during that time, did you ever get lost, or was there any times where you like, this is a bit peaky, I don't know if I'm gonna get back to see my family? With
the main thing is with the boat, I think when we touched on it having a chat, you're never bored. Yeah. There's so much, like when you go into a new place, like a lot of these islands are uncharted, you don't actually know how deep the water is in certain areas. Yeah, right. So when you go into a place, you're normally looking at it on a map first for a long period of time and working out where you'd be in certain weather. Like if the weather comes from the north, this is where you're going to tuck in. If a big storm comes from the south, this is where you're going to tuck in. So you look at each territory or each island you go to as, you know, where are the safe spots? Where is the village? How can we be close to a village? Or how can we be in isolation? Oh, there's waterfalls there. There's a nice river there. So you really get a good understanding of where you're going first through looking at the map. And Google Earth, Captain Cook would have loved that shit. Like all of it. We've got it so easy now compared to those guys. Like you can Google Earth an area, and that's what we normally do. And you can see where the bomboras are, which is like a exposed coral head. Right. You can find out where the shallow water is. You can see the river. You can see civilization. You can see huts. So a lot of the time you don't want to pull into an area which is a nice bay that has a village as well straight there, because can be a bit of an invasion.
Right. Okay. That's so you're looking at this on a kind of 3-dimensional plane, in the sense of you need to be looking at where you're going to be, because obviously the undergrowth, which could be causing an issue, the fact you've got your family there and you want to make sure that they're secure, and there's not terrible undercurrents happening, and third of all, you've got villages there, and you don't want to start coming in and just in just your cacks, just waving at them and them going, what are these knobs doing here?
Yeah,
gotcha.
It's a fine line, and then you've got to try and gauge each person, and a lot of the time if they're not speaking the language, so normally bring a fish. If we could, you trawl. And that's like an offering. If we do go to a village, you try and bring in a fish as a bit of a hello.
Wow.
So is this? And then and then trade with them whatever you can. Like we normally have tobacco. I know it's not a good thing to do, but the guys love a smoke, and being able to roll someone a smoke, it's a nice thing to be able to, just pick up some tobacco, create something for them and give it to them. They trade you some papaya or,
They always said if you're ever getting into like trouble, there's a fight, always, even if you don't smoke, keep a pack of cigarettes on you, because you can minimize a situation just by handing them a smoke or something within that kind of mind, because the very second they take it from you, it causes a psychological change in their mind that, oh, he is not a threat, he is a friend.
Right. Well, I definitely find that there are a few situations where obviously we went up to Indonesia at a later point, and there are pirates up there.
That's mad. Not those ones though, right? With the patches and the beards.
There's a few of them I reckon are pretty rough. That's probably the worst of your worries, really, I guess, with the with their guns, weaponry, coordinated attacks and things like that. They don't normally target private boats.
Wow. Okay. It's more like the larger commercial boats that they're jumping after. But I'm guessing it's not unheard of, if they're having a tough week or tough month, that you could find yourself on the back end of that. But again, I'm guessing because you've got a family and you've got that mindset to think ahead, plan ahead. The areas that they're coming from, or that they normally sail.
So you try and avoid areas where there is like high known pirate activity, obviously, and then there's normally multiple ways around the island. But I guess you got to think of it more like they're, like you say, people down on their luck.
Yeah. Right.
They're living in hostile environments. They might be out trying to fish. They might have been out for a long time. They're out in the middle of nowhere on these little boats. Yeah. Like a whippersnipper mower. Like motor, that's how they're getting around, and not much shelter. So it's just respect. It's just human respect, and trying to read the situation when they do see you and they come over. Like, that's when you do offer them some water. Like, obviously they're bloody thirsty, offer them some water. If they come up beside the boat, roll them a smoke. Wow. Try and sort of have that. I know everyone's got different ways that they deal with it. We tend to find that was the best one for us, for just as some kind of hello, thanks for having us in your country, in your waters.
Wow.
Here's this. How's your fishing going? And if we've just pulled up a big fish, just give them what we can as well.
That's crazy to think that they sometimes they'd moor up next to you when you're in the middle of the sea, right? And then is that something that happened regularly, or?
Well, there was so the boat got stranded over in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm jumping from one thing to another.
No, it's okay. The point of this is really just to get those adventures out, and hear about it. It's amazing.
Well, the most recent one was I had to get the boat back from Indonesia because of COVID. It was stuck over there. We weren't allowed into Indonesia. We weren't allowed out of Australia. So that was the thing. We weren't allowed out of Australia, and Indonesia weren't going to extend our customs duty-free exemption. Right. So the boat's only allowed to be in there for 2 years before you need to pay duty on it.
Gosh. Okay.
So you waive the import tax because you're just passing through, because we did plan to go around the world at that stage, or go to Thailand. So when the boat was stranded over there, we were stuck here. It was very difficult. Ended up getting over there, sailed back, and on the way back, I was with, I met an old guy over there, good bloke. He jumped aboard with us, and we were just sailing day and night, just to try and get back across from Lombok to Darwin.
Just some chap that you met when you were out there, yeah?
Yeah, I met him over there. I met him in Lombok through other people. Just this old guy. He was just really, really interesting bloke, actually. Good guy to be stuck on a boat with for 2 months.
Traveling, right? Traveling, right? You just find some random guys. Like, I'll help you out, and now you're not on your own. That's traveling.
Well, he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to get into us. He just wanted to stay in Indonesia. He was an Indonesian. He had residency over there, so he just sailed the Indonesian leg with us. There was one part where we were going across these an island group, just not as far across as Timor, like not directly above Australia, sort of like northwest of Australia a little bit.
Yeah. Not
as far over as Lombok. And we were going between these islands. When I say between the islands, they were off in the distance. And there was 3 boats, and one of them sort of just shot in front. They were about 2 kilometres in front of us, and then one boat shot right out in front. It's like, oh, okay, they might be fishing. So I thought they might have had a net. So I just turned to starboard quite a bit, just to show that I'm going in a different direction, so they could see the side of the boat. And then this boat came back this way, and then the other boat sort of came back this way. And then they sort of like split up, and they're heading towards us. And I went, I don't like this.
It's a bit peaky. That's a bit peaky.
Yeah, a little bit peaky. I thought, what's going on here? It was just before dark. And then I turned out to sea again. Sorry, I turned the opposite way this time and kept on going out. I just went, shit, they turned again and kept on our track. I was like, all right, what's going to happen here? So I just did the whole thing. As you said, the smokes, created just a couple little grab bags.
Yeah.
Just with some tobacco, with some fruit that I got before I left, things that I knew that I could spare, some water, a few bottles of water. And old mate came up beside the boat. The first boat came up, and he was yelling at us in Indonesian. I couldn't really pick up what he was saying. He was speaking really, really fast. And I just held up the water and the fruit and everything, and he came beside, and I just grabbed his boat and chucked it in. And he just gave the thumbs up and
just went off.
Yeah, that was it. So you don't, and that's the whole thing with fire, right? Like you could quite easily, I wasn't sleep deprived at that point. We had quite good weather.
Yeah.
But when the storms come in at night, you get bad weather, you get very sleep deprived, and then your judgment starts really, things mess with you. When you haven't slept for, I don't know, when you haven't slept for 20 hours, you start to just go a little bit. I used to think that it was the alcohol and whatever else you were doing on a night out.
No, it's not sleeping.
it's not sleeping.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw like sailing over to the islands. I actually sailing back to Australia. The amount of nights that I was just hallucinating. I was just looking out over the water and thinking, does that look like these gigantic people were just standing? And I knew they weren't gigantic people, because there's not many gigantic people walking on the ocean.
Not many. Days. Not there, especially these days. Yeah.
But I could see them. And that's the thing. It's like, I really got to go to sleep when the sun comes up and tag out with someone. So, yeah, just trying to maintain the reality of the situation, not get worked up and not think worst case scenarios. There's a certain element of just like putting faith and doing the next right thing. Because, if I was more hostile, or if I was one of the people that are carrying firearms, and I produced a gun at that point, and if they had something similar, 3 boats, one of me, old fella down there, like what's going to happen? So
it's the middle of the sea. It's the middle of the sea. Like what is going to happen?
Robberies do happen, and people do get, things happen.
And look, for everyone listening, I want to make this very clear. This isn't like something that happens on a frequent basis. Like, I've been a decade of traveling. Mick here has been traveling for almost all his life. It's not something that is going to happen continuously, but it's something to be very aware of. That probably a positive attitude, thinking ahead and just thinking, look, if I'm going into odd places, it's good idea to have something tangible to offer as a sign of respect. And 9 times out of 10, just doing that can get you out of some sticky situations.
Exactly, mate. And that's it. It's just having that humility. It's like whatever you are before you go on the boat, whether you're, we've owned businesses before, we've done different things, and you tend to attach that to your identity when you're in your native surroundings. Exactly. You're this business owner, you're you've got an identity. When you're out there, you're no one.
That's it.
You're just another. Yeah, you're just another human dealing with another human. This human's hungry. This human's thirsty. This human's tired.
And you have stuff that he doesn't have, right? And why do you have that? And do you want to make him feel more angry about this, or do you want to build a relationship with someone, which potentially, mate, you could end up going around there again, and he sees you in the street and he's like, mate, here's that tobacco, by the way, and you're like, I don't smoke, but thank you very much, sir. You know. And
well, yeah, that's funny, and that's the thing, that the people that don't have much are probably some of the most generous in the world. When we sailed into Vanuatu, we caught a huge fish. It was this big, it was a bonito, so like a mac tuna.
Yeah.
And pulled it up, and we already had a nice mackerel. It's just like, we don't need all this fish. Like, we don't have this much refrigeration space to start with. And as we came into this bay, they travel around in these banana boats there, or the local people. So there's literally just 40 people hanging on from this boat, and I waved one down, and they came over to us, like with everyone on board. It's like, hey, big beautiful smiles, and I held up the fish, and the guys came towards us, and I threw them the fish.
Wow.
So I had it in a bucket, you know, those plastic Bunnings tubs.
Yeah.
I had it in one of them, and I threw them the bucket. They took the fish, and they were all stoked. Anyway, our boat's got a big eyeball on it. A mate came up with a logo. The boat's called the Cosmos.
The Cosmos, yes, yeah.
And inside the eye is the Earth, which is like the pupil, and then outside that is the lightning, which is, you know, the veins in the eyes, and then the tree roots. So it's a pretty trippy kind of design.
Living in the cosmos, memorable. Right?
The cosmos, exactly right.
Yeah, right.
It's a cool design. And about 2 weeks later, we're anchored in this bay, and we went to shore. There was a little resort, and we went to shore there. He goes, the local fella that was the security guard there, he said, "Are you on that boat with the eye?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, that's us." He said, "You gave my cousin the fish." He goes, "Mate, that all went back." He goes, "Come in." He goes, "Use anything you want. There's pools, there's tennis courts, there's all this." Like, oh, what? Like, we were just like walking past, and then we ended up having full run of this resort for, I don't know, the week that we were there. We were able to have nice long hot showers and jump in a clean pool, and you know, you never know.
If you or someone you know would be an interesting guest on the show, we'd love to hear from you. We love speaking to everyday people who've taken to the open road or open seas for an extended period of time, or anyone that's set up their life in an off-grid location. Please email guest@offgridtraveller.com.au to get in touch. That's 2 L's in Traveller.
Wow. Like just from just having a wave, you've got more than enough food, you share it with someone, and you end up having the run of a beautiful place because it's his cousin, it's his mate.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And we met him on, you know, a few bays over, you know, before. So it's just, you don't do it for that reason, but it's nice to, when it does actually come around so quick. Yeah. It's one of the best parts, as you know, with your travels, like being where you are and whatnot. You've got to, especially when you're a visitor, the more you give, like, you don't want to get walked over.
Yeah, that's it, mate.
You got to give.
Yeah. Put like, you know, don't change who you are as a person in any way, shape, or size, because that's who you are. But if the culture says don't do a particular thing, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy and do it, because you're the one now that's making all the rest of us look terrible. And you see it a lot. And we talked about this in the briefly as well. You get a lot of weirdos when you travel as well. But they are 50% of the reasons why you travel, because the stories that they can tell themselves as well, it's layers upon layers of chaos, right? And that's it, which makes me think, you know, when you were mentioning obviously that using Google as was one of the Google sat nav was one of the things that is just a top tip for when you're traveling out there. In your mind, when you were on the Catamaran, what are the most essential pieces of equipment that you go, look, if we're going out there, we need these to just have the best time possible?
The water maker, which is a little mobile desalination machine.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Which brand do you use specifically?
Rain Man.
Rain Man. Good name.
Rain Man. Yeah, it's good. It's good. We bought that years and years ago. It's pretty much just you know how they work. It's a
I've used one in the jungle before, but I didn't like it. Was one that like it had the different types of soil in it. So it was a reverse osmosis machine that we used, but it was like a jungle Thai guy made it and went, look, good water. And we were like, all right, wicked. Like, I guess we're drinking well today. And I didn't get sick, mate. So I'm still here.
Well, it sounds like a bloody good contraption. Yeah, nice. Yeah. No, they're amazing. It's being able to just get the seawater and it pumps it up and basically forces it through a whole heap of like membranes.
Right, yeah.
With tiny, tiny little filters, and it busts the water apart like on a molecular level.
Yeah.
So all that comes out of it, it gets rid of virus, bacteria, salts, metals, impurities. All you're left is with pure water.
Wow.
So that's essential. I think having maps, you need maps. Obviously need a compass.
Yep. Well, so just because obviously with the water purifier, that's on a powered as well, right? So I'm guessing you've got some sort of energy. How are you getting your energy basically?
Well, we're completely. Hey, here comes the podcast off grid.
Hey,
there we go. We got there.
Take a sip of that.
Yeah, that's worth it.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah. We got solar panels. We got a wind generator.
Yeah.
Whenever you do use an engine to get into an area, we got larger alternators that we fitted to the engines. So whenever you are dropping the anchor or trying to maneuver into a difficult bit of reef, that's when we normally turn the engines on. And then that's also a extra charge. And then the battery bank holds that. You just need to be smart about power. Like you obviously charge up your computer, any devices, anything that has an external battery or an external lithium, you normally put that on charge or have all the plugs ready. As soon as you turn the engines on and you've got excess power being made, that's when you charge everything up.
Right.
Right. And then at night, you use minimal power. You don't go playing on your computer at night. You tend to get more in the rhythm of the world with, when you're away from it all. Like you go to sleep when it's dark, you wake up when the sun comes up, whatever time that is. Wow, and when there's a storm, you stay awake all night.
So okay. So the circadian rhythm really comes into play there, and it's just being under the stars and everything. In the very second nighttime, you're clonked out. It's interesting to think about that because we've always got so much light pollution around us that when you're sitting in your home and all that, you think getting 4 hours a night is normal. Well, it's for 90% of us, it's not. It's absolutely not. Some people can run on it, but 6, 7, 8 hours, if you clonk out and wake up and you're feeling wonderful, it's probably because you had a good night's sleep. And I can see how being on the waves as well. My grandma back in the day, she had a waterbed. And I'm just remembering when I was and then I'm remembering being on my uncle's boat and like sleeping on that as well. Same feeling. It's just something about being on something that's got a consistent but peaceful movement, unless there's a storm that can just knock you out in seconds.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of the old waterbeds, isn't it? They were pretty safe. I don't actually. I haven't been on one recently.
Not for the longest time, mate. To be honest, I'm sure that if you opened one up, the water would be absolutely disgusting, and I wouldn't probably recommend you use that water purifier with it because you're gonna have grandma's sweat going through there.
Oh mate, no, grandma.
No, stay where you are.
Yeah, it's you got to conserve your energy because when it gets bad, it gets bad. Like, that's the thing. Like you just get days of bliss, and that's the most amazing part about the ocean. You can have a morning that is just like you feel like whoever created this is just beyond your comprehension. How perfect it is, how clear the water is, and how beautiful that coral is down there, and the palm trees and the white sand, and the way the bay is shaped, it's like, this is ridiculous. Volcano in the background. It's like, it's so
That's mad,
beautiful.
isn't it? Yeah.
And then within a few hours, you can literally feel like you're in hell. You just need one little thunderhead to pop up over the corner, and then before you know it, you're dragging anchor towards rocks, and there's bloody whitewash all over the place, and the lightning's coming, threatening to blow everything out, and it's so it's volatile and beautiful and scary all at the same time.
And this is the thing, even though it's scary, you wouldn't change it for the world, would you? Like, the opportunity to go out there and do it, it's not stopped you from going, you know what, I'm never doing that again.
You got to mitigate the risk, like with anything. Like there is storm seasons. There are certain areas that you avoid at certain times of year. So say, for example, getting the boat back to Australia, we had to do it within this narrow time frame. Otherwise, the weather systems are going to change.
Right. Okay.
And just even learning about how all that works. So like you look at the world. There's a really good website called Earthwind, and you look at the Earth as a whole big. The best description an old guy gave us was if you got two rooms next to each other, one of them's got high pressure, like super high pressure, and then there's a like airtight door, and in the other room there's no pressure. It's very, very low pressure.
Right.
So as soon as that door opens a bit, you've got all this high pressure that will just rush to the low pressure, and the low pressure is going to be sucking. So there's going to be a pulling and a sucking motion at the same time. So, and depending on what hemisphere you're in, depends on which direction these wind systems turn. And just watching that's the main thing, I guess, is getting the weather updates and watching those synoptic charts and watching where the highs are feeding into the lows and where the lows are. How low is that low pressure, which is therefore going to work out how much air it's going to be sucking in, and that's where we get our cyclones and everything from.
Wow.
It's fascinating. You jump on Earthwind. It's earthwind.com, I think, and you can jump on there and you can see what the Earth is doing right now.
And so, like, when you're in the middle of the ocean, how are you keeping up to scratch with that? Like, do you have the ability to go on those websites at the same time, or
we can't go on? No, not websites. Like very limited data. So you're just downloading these tiny little files called grid files.
Okay.
And that allows you to see the like where the wind is at that point in time, and then based off the same models that they use, like the global forecasting system, the European weather system as well. There's a few base models that they use all over the world, and you're able to download them in tiny byte form, and then have that on a basic map so you can see what's happening.
So you've got you've got your water purifiers, you've got your solar panels, you've got your little bits of data that are telling you which way the winds are blowing and the high pressure and low pressure, so you're not caught with your pants down.
That's right.
and then it comes to the next one. What about when you've got your pants down? Where do you go to the toilet? What's the goal there? Like, do you go off the side, or what's the plan?
Well, someone told us when we did our first little overseas voyage that the majority of people that are found lost at sea are found with their pants around their ankles.
No,
I don't know if it's true or not, but it was just a little message because I had a few mates on board, and it's so tempting why would you go inside, downstairs into a hole to go and sit on the toilet or go to a toilet when you could literally just take one step to the side and go off the edge. It depends, doesn't it? At night, I swore to my wife when we do like night sails, big night passages, because that'd just be horrific. Imagine waking up after being asleep for 4 hours, and I'm supposed to be at the top. She gets up the top, and where's Mickey gone? You've got no chance of finding us.
Get downstairs and go use the dunny there, and it just for the safety measures more than anything. Wow, I never thought of that.
There's stuff out there, like you'd have to be unlucky. You'd have to be really unlucky to hit a whale or get a weird bit of chop or
but look, you say you have to be unlucky, but there's still a probability. What I mean?
It's not worth it.
No.
It's not worth it.
So
and then when it gets Sorry.
So I was going to say, so is it like, do you have a portable one there, or is it one that's actually with the catamaran? That
there is a toilet down in the cat. Yeah, down in the cat.
Right.
It's
Okay.
got a little portable head down. They call it a head. So you wee in the head.
Right. And then you pump it, and then goes out into the for the
out
fish.
in the deep blue. Yeah, straight out to the fishies. There is like a little holding tank. So
Right.
if you do go into bays where people are swimming around and everything, they don't end up with nasty
With the
shots.
black water tanks, mate. Oof.
Mate, you thought Nanny's old waterbed was bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That is Nanny's old waterbed, basically, but times 100. It is the worst smell in the world, and normally it's and it's you who has to do it, right? I don't see the kids doing it.
Nah, it's not a fun job.
No,
but that seems to happen a lot. Like all that, that's a constant thing. Just the maintenance. Like you'll get somewhere, and then it's. Yeah, I think that was probably the most eye-opening part of it. Is when we decided that we were going to go from living the life we were living. We had 3 businesses in Sydney. Life was good. To going, okay, we're leaving this.
Yeah.
What are we going to be doing? You think when you get on the boat, you're going to have ample time. You're just going to be cruising around, looking at the sails. But shit breaks all the time. and you don't have parts, and you can't call anyone.
Right.
And the amount of times I've unblocked that toilet, and it's not easy on a boat as well. It's not a matter of just being able to. You can't go down to the garage and get some tools out and jump on a ladder, and you got to pull panels apart, and then it's a can of worms. Yeah, get in there.
Let's hope there isn't a can of worms in there, because that's another level.
That'd be better.
Some of the grip.
But trying to get that pipe up out of the boat without spilling, like trying to get it up through the entrance. Yeah. There's a lot of jobs on there that you're just like, is this worth it?
Yeah. So okay, like on a scale of 1, let's say like the top 3 maintenance points in your mind when you're in the middle of the ocean, catamaran, what would be the 3 in ones that you go, I wish I didn't have to do this?
Yeah, unblocking. Normally, it's not actually the toilet itself that blocks. It's the pipe, right, which runs down underneath the toilet, underneath the false floor, up one of the holes, up into the tub, and then back down out the seacock. So you can't just pull the hose. Pulling the hose off isn't a simple thing. No. You need to unclamp it from the top, unclamp it. In which case you improvise. Then you go to bucket mode.
Bucket mode.
But pulling that. Trying to do that underway is just a non-event.
This episode of Off Grid Traveller is proudly sponsored by Dry Flush Toilets Australia, home of the world-famous Lavio Dry Flush Toilet. This patented electric toilet has no chemicals, is not a composting system, and can be set up literally anywhere in under 60 seconds. It looks and feels like an at-home toilet to use, but it can be used anywhere with no external power or water, and it still flushes. There's also no cartridge to clean or empty, and it's perfect for camping, caravans, converted vans, boats, tiny homes, or anything off-grid. Go to www.dryflush.com.au and use coupon code OFFGRID to get a 10% discount on your toilet order today.
And also any engine work,
right? Getting
in the engine, if water pump fails or an engine overheats and you're in the middle of nowhere and you've got to get down in there, you're in this bloody tight confined space with all these hot little steel, horrible. Yeah, and it's already baking in the sun, so you're literally just in the open sun, flying down these waves, down there with all your spanners and tools, trying to work out what the hell is going on. That's when you're glad you went to sleep when the sun went down.
So when it comes down to the engineering point, have you figured out any ways to ease the process, or is it just what it is? You just have to get in there and get into the thick of it.
Yeah, I'm not really I'm good with structure. I like working out problems that are structural, where you can go, all right, this supports that and this needs that. Basic engineering like that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the mechanical parts and exciter fuses and diodes, and that's when I start getting a little bit lost. So yeah, that's a big. You learn on the fly for that.
Yeah.
You try and learn what you can, but the things you don't know. There's so many parts to. It's a little city, you know what I mean? Like you got water, you've got the propulsion, you've got electrical generation, you've got all of these little parts. It's impossible to know all of it.
So you
it's
become
just a matter of trying.
Yes, you like, before you get into doing this, obviously you had an understanding of how to manage it if situations were to become a little bit dodgy, right? But at the same time, you're learning on the job at the same time.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't really know too much about it.
Just let's go.
Well, it's a sailboat, which is, that's our primary way, and that's a structural thing. So I can understand that if a sail's torn, you can fix it. You can make the sail shorter. If the mast snaps, well, you can make a jury rig.
Practicality.
You can be practical and go, okay, we need to propel that way. We've got some fabric. We've got some ropes. We've got some height. We can do it. Yeah. But with a motor, it's like, well, shit, is it this pump? Is it this spring? Is it this screw? Is it this gasket? Is this leaking out of that? Is this not getting power to it? Like, why isn't that pump working?
Yeah. Wow.
Why isn't fuel getting from there to there? Or is it there's a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of reading the manual. Of the book.
so there's a tip, everyone. Keep the manual. Do not throw the manual once you buy the boat.
100%. Keep the manual. Always keep the manual.
Make a copy of the manual.
Definitely. It's the only manual. When it comes to putting together furniture or anything like that, destroy the manual. Just look at what it's meant to look up.
Yeah.
And then just make it look like that. Yeah. But when it comes to the engine, there's too many, unless you got exploded diagrams of everything.
Right.
That helps.
Yeah. Okay. But so number one, the toilets. And the chaos that comes behind having the less suction than necessary to get it out of the boat. Then yes. 2 is the engines, and what's number 3, which is a pain in the ass.
Mate, I think that's all right. Yeah, I think those 2 are they more than make up for everything else.
So those 2 are a variety of, like, so the toilet itself is a 1, but it's a big one, and then the other one is hundreds of little things that come in between it. Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, everything else is simple. Like we've run over buoys before, not like human buoys, but the I hope not. There's like fishing buoys, like the people set all their nets and crab traps and that up. We've been sailing along before at night, and then the boat will just come to a stop, and we'll have sail out, and you'll be like, whoa, what's going on here? So pull the sail down, get the torches out, go around the boat. It happened just off Sydney, actually, and then went off there, and you could see a rope. You could see a little string of traps that have been there, and it got wrapped around the prop. It was lucky it didn't bloody rip the leg out the boat. But
wow.
So then that was at 10:30 at night. Jump overboard to there's torch in the mouth, trying to untangle it all. But they're practical things, and they're a little bit of fun as well.
Yeah.
We've had a few incidents where things have got caught around the props, but it's practical. You can jump overboard and do it. It gives you an excuse to get in the water in dodgy situations.
Have some fun, right? Like, just have a bit of fun. So, yeah. Which again is one of those things. Doing this is fun. Like, the adventure of it is fun. You wouldn't do these things unless you knew that there was a slight bit of risk, a slight bit of fun that can take you to new. We were talking about it briefly beforehand, is that, if you continuously want to go out and travel and you're still at home thinking if it's a good idea or not, just go, just do it. Because even if you are scared of that initial step, the risk of you not going may be greater than the risk of you going. And the amount of people, the amount of experiences you'll have in life in general is just times 10. You 10x it, literally. And And
Yeah.
you've gone a step further because you've got your little ones with you, and you've got you mentioned before you've got a next adventure coming up potentially, right?
Yes. That is exciting. It is exciting because you're right. It's getting out to, I think when we were speaking about this earlier as well, you see when the little kids play our iPad game, or even ourselves, you don't want to play the same level over and over again. That's, you want to do a level that's a bit harder and a bit harder.
Novelty,
and
right?
you go back to the easy levels and you want to just get up to that hard level again.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, I guess, when you do travel. It's like you go to a place that's easy, and then you go to a place that's a bit more difficult, and you do somewhere that's a bit more difficult, and it keeps you on that edge. Like the idea of just cruising around a bay.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't have the same luster as going to a distant land that you've never been to before. And I think it's the same.
There's something about it, right? When you see that visual shot of that brand new thing you've never been part of. It could be a cityscape. It could be just like you start seeing the mountains, and your heart just kind of all of a sudden you get this new energy just comes out of nowhere, right? And you've got this feeling, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is why I do this. I may have no money in my pocket right now, but gosh, I am going to be able to remember this and use this for the rest of my life. It's a changer. It's a game changer.
That's the essence of it all. Myself and my missus always talks about it as well, just wanting to see what's around every corner. And that's always the most exciting part. You get around a little bay, you're like, oh, what's good? Oh, you've seen it on maps. You studied on maps. You know what it looks like. It's like, what is it? And then when you get around there and you see the rock formations and you see the way the beach goes in, you're like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's
the continuous R's, right? Until you're R'd out and you're just sitting there going, I need a beer. I need a beer.
You got to just take it all in. And that is, you're right. That is like, it's like meeting people. It's like starting a new business. It's like leveling up. You unlock a new level when you get to one of those new places, and it's exciting. And especially if you are eating there, like finding a little bay and then seeing that there's some mussels or some oysters, and then being able to crack some nice little oysters off there, or finding a nice little cave that you can go exploring in. And that's what I think we're looking forward to doing with the kids, and why we want to do this again. We have lived a few lives in this life, and when we do throw ourselves into things, it's 100%. And with this cafe, it is up for sale. We did get an offer on it actually just this morning.
Wow.
I think I spoke to you. We had a semi-offer yesterday, but this morning somebody's keen. So maybe by the time that this is released, it'll be done.
And you'll be ready for your next adventure, because you were saying and that you're going to be you're buying a van with the little family, going off to the coast, spending time with family, and building out the next steps for your catamaran, right? For your boat.
That's it, because it's been it's going to need some love, before we take off to the ultimate goal would be to, I think with the family, would just be to spend that time doing exactly what we're talking about. Look, exploring, seeing what's around the corner, building things with them, discovering new places
with the little ones as well, right? Building their new ability to see things in a way that we probably should have seen things then. But that kind of sides to another question that's really probably going to be a lot of people who've got kids who think that they can't do this is how do you keep them educated when you're on the road? Because that's a big one.
It is a big one. Because you're not, in comparison to being here, here running this business, it's a 7-day-a-week business. While we're open for those periods, and then the rest of the time we're still talking about it. You're never 100. Not never. You're not 100% present for the kids as much as what you should be when you're living this life. I think
the work life, right? Because obviously the work life, if you're working there 7 days a week, you've got your business, and even if you're living with them at home, the fact is you're still working. So
there's always some
time with them. Yeah. Okay.
Today I had the day off, so to speak, but there was still, the day off. There's still a few hours worth of spot fires to put out and things that didn't get ordered, and there's always. So and these things are all time restricted because there's deliveries and whatnot. So then when your kids are halfway through a story and you've got to cut off in 15 minutes, it does get a bit old always having to push it back. And doesn't really feel like that's the real reason why you want to be bringing them into the world, just to push them back to be able to make more money, to be able to eventually spend more time with them. That, you get stuck you just get stuck straight back on that cycle again. And it's a slippery slope. And the more you work, the more you want to de-stress. So the more you de-stress, and then the more of this you end up having. And then before you know it, your time's just slipped by and you're bloody 67 years old and you've got 6 months to live.
Mate, it's funny though. It's funny though, because when I was in North Thailand, I met this woman. She was probably in her late 50s, maybe early 60s. And I was just asking, so have you been traveling a lot? She said, no, this is the first time I've ever traveled and I'm going to live out here. And I said, well, what was the plan? She said, I wanted to do this my whole life. And I said, are you regretting? She said, this is the best thing I've ever done in my life. So it doesn't matter when you start, just tomorrow is the day that you should be planning for your next trip. You know what I mean? Like,
well, there's that energy that comes from planning for it as well, isn't it? Like, it's not just it's not getting in the habit of going, it's going to be good once we go there, or it's going to be better once we get there, or once we get there. It's the process that starts like from at that moment where you're saying you're going from, okay, let's start. Like, the planning is part of it.
It is. It really excites you, like I'm going to Thailand for a month in May with my mate, for just because it's my birthday and we want to enjoy that. And I'm saying to him, do you want to drive down to the coast? Do you want to get a coach? And he was going like, oh, I can't wait. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to write all these things down. Then we're just going to point at them and we're going to choose them, So
it is. You feel like you've got a real control over. You've got freedom.
Yeah.
You've got parameters, which is always money and time. And then, your dependence and, your risk tolerance. And it's like anything at all you do, whether it's business or whether it's life or whether it's, doing jumps or catching big waves. It's all relatable.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, no matter what your background is as well, I've found everything has been transferable, whether you're working in construction or whether you're working in a corporate world or whether you're working in finance or whether you're working in hospitality. There's certain things that cross over, not all elements, but there's a lot that you can bring from this into this and into this. And there's never a thing that you've done in the past that you're not going to be able to bring to this new game, whatever it is, and this new place you're going.
That's it.
Whether it's coming up with a budget or whether it's working out, or how many miles am I going to get from there? If you're really good at calculations, like it pays to be good at calculations, to work out how you can get from a spot to a spot and how far you can actually track in a day, what you need, how much drink, you need to do maths. And so getting back around to where you were talking about before with the education, the whole thing is education, because it's not, it's not bullshit. Like, you're not just flapping time away. You're living
literal skills. You're learning literal skills when you're on the boat as well, aren't you? Or wherever you are, you're going to be learning how to deal with other cultures. You're going to be learning how to potentially talk other languages, which is a massive one. You're going to be learning how to deal with a broken toilet when dad doesn't want to deal with it and he puts you in charge of it.
Well, that's it. That's exactly it. It's problem solving.
Yeah.
Like, that's basically what the whole thing is. It's just everything's problem solving. Like, the season's changing. We need to get from here to here. Where are we going to go? He weighs up the pros and cons, decision making, problem solving, adventure seeking, following what you feel like you need, looking at your parameters. Yeah. Like, it's not an education in the way of you're going to end up coming out of it with A, B, C, D, but the boat kids that we've met in our travels, they're just, it's incomparable. A 14-year-old girl that's been living on a boat compared to a 14-year-old girl that's been living in the city, they're just two different creatures. Just
completely different. Yeah.
Completely different. And one of them you can actually sit down with and have an amazing conversation with, and you're like, wow, and it's so engaging. The other one's sort of like, oh, Okay,
well, they're on their phone.
Yeah, on the phone, and
phone,
it's just,
you know.
it's a different world, and unfortunately, the way society is sort of going at the moment, I think that the more time we actually do spend out looking at stars and actually seeing the world that we're attached to, a world that we came from, and a world that we're a part of, and a world that is here for us to experience. It's a hell of a lot healthier than always going for the attention of others and following groups and trying to fit in and being part of a minority and having people side with you and trying to build this sort of fragile
societal ego. Yeah, it's and that's the scary thing is sometimes just realizing that it's okay to make mistakes, and you know, traveling, you make a lot of mistakes, and if you do that, it's basically like taking a fast route into it's okay to be human. We don't have to
exactly right.
go through all these societal crap. You know, I was telling you before, I came from London rat race, and there was this time when I was every single day I was getting on the underground at like 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. sorry, I was going, I'm not like these people, I'm not like these people, I'm not
How
like
old
these people.
were you?
Probably about 19, 20, 21, like around that time. And then one day I sat on the train and it was like packed like sardines, and I went, oh my gosh, I'm like these people. And the next day I booked my ticket backpacking, and I've been out here ever since. So you know,
wow.
Yeah, I had to do it, man. Otherwise I felt like I was crashing and burning. And if you feel like that for too long, it becomes the new norm. And then that's the scary thing is, what do you do when that's the new norm? You know, how do you get out that next hole?
Yeah, that's the thing. It becomes quite tacky then, and then you start attaching yourself to. So you got out at a good time where you didn't have a dog, and you probably, you know, long-term partner and involved in this and invested in this, and it's hard to tie all those loose ends up. Like, but you can do it at any stage.
Absolutely
like you
possible. Yeah.
If you've got businesses, you can wrap them up, and you can sell, and you can create a new sort of world and a new world for yourself, and take control of that. And like you say, to be out when you do feel like you're just mentally spiraling, to be able to just sink back into just what you are is just existence, the same as everything else, and get away from all the bullshit for a little bit, and get away from looking at the bank balance and away from looking at this and go, okay, obviously you need to survive, but what's your actual goal in life? At the end of the day, when you are just dust, what do you want to experience more of? And when you look up at the stars on one of those beautiful nights, it's just like, boom, you just realize you're literally just on a planet looking at all these other planets swirling around. It's like, it puts everything else in perspective. And you think this person that's yelling at you about something arriving 15 minutes late, it's like, oh, piss off. Like, you know, but because that carries so much, because your pride's attached to your work and what you do, and you got to hold yourself to it, so you can't throw away all that. It's a delicate balance, and I think we tend to sort of bounce between the two. We'll go and live a life of freedom for a while, and then we throw ourselves in a work 100%. Live a bit of freedom. We're in a process, or we've constantly been in the process of trying to find a balance where we're able to, you know, live that life sustainably. That's a difficult part. I think balance is always a difficult part.
Yeah, balance, guys. And on that note, you know, we have come to the end of the podcast where we've had Mick telling us some of the most incredible things about adventure, heart, life, and dodgy toilets, which is the real facts of it, guys. You know, just Mick, just so that people know, you have both two Instagrams, right? One's Cosmos_living, and that's the one where it shows all your photos and videos of you guys traveling, and there's a few sordid pictures of you with the catching some fish, which some of the ladies might love. And then you've also got the bucking seahorse, which again, you mentioned that you are selling, but at the same time, guys, I would highly recommend you check it out, because if you're around that area and you love music and you love seeing new talent, these guys are fostering it right now.
Please do. Yeah, if you are a fan of that, supporting artists, this is definitely a place for them to be able to, you know, continue their passions as well. So yeah, come down and support it. Also, there's a YouTube channel, which we might end up resurrecting for Cosmos Living.
Do it.
I think it's Cosmos. I think it's called Cosmos Living as well on YouTube.
Brilliant. Yeah, we'll make sure to add it in the everywhere so that people can check those out and make sure to follow you guys. No problem.
Mate, well, thank you for the chat as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's been emotional, mate. And this is the thing. And when you travel as well, you can find people of the same cloth, per se, that just have that same energy. And, you know, would I have been like this when I first started? There might have been inklings of it, right? But you grow and you start learning that it broadens the mind. And they say that, but it does.
It does. 100%. Yeah, no, it's and it is nice, mate. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing, and yeah, happy to help.
Awesome, mate. Well, just so you guys know, if you enjoyed this, please comment, subscribe, and everything in between. We love to have you here. This is the Off-Grid Traveler, which we see as ironic because we're both inside studios right now, in homes and stuff. But that's the beauty of it. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have a connection with us. Speak to you guys soon. Have an awesome day.
If you or someone you know would be an interesting guest on the show, we'd love to hear from you. We love speaking to everyday people who've taken to the open road or open seas for an extended period of time, or anyone that's set up their life in an off-grid location. Please email guest@offgridtraveller.com.au to get in touch. That's 2 L's in Traveller.